Hey guys, it's been brought to my attention that there's some confusion about how to read a solubility chart. So I wanted to cut a quick little video to break it down for you and give you the information to help you address these questions successfully on the quiz. So I know just looking at this, a bunch of lines, a big chart, it can seem a little bit daunting, but let's simplify that a little bit. So let's start with number one. Looking at number one. On this side, this is telling you how much solute is going to dissolve. Now this is usually listed in grams of solute per some amount of a solvent. And the graph starts at 0 in the bottom corner. And then as you move up the chart, it increases incrementally in how much solute is dissolving. Then, moving down across the bottom for part 2, this is where it shows the temperature of the graph and the temperature that your solvent currently has as you're adding the solute for dissolving. So as you've learned, temperature really affects how quickly something dissolves. As a general rule of thumb, if it's a solid or a liquid, then the warmer the solvent is, the more quickly it's going to dissolve, and the larger amount I'll be able to dissolve into that solvent. It's completely opposite for gases. So if it's really warm, then gases don't dissolve very well into the solvent, and you can't dissolve very much gas if it's really warm. But you flip that coin, let's go cold. Now, gases are really easy to dissolve into a solvent, and a lot of them stay, but solids and liquids don't dissolve quite as quickly, and I'm not going to get as much to dissolve in a cold solvent as I would if it were warmer. So those are your rules of thumb for temperature as it regards to solubility. Now looking at the chart, in the bottom left corner it starts at 0, and as you move to the right across the table it gets warmer. Now what's probably the most confusing part is part 3. All of those curved lines in the chart. Each of those lines is a different solute. And at similar conditions, different solutes are going to have different rates that they dissolve. So say I have a solvent that's at 50 degrees Celsius, then all of the different solutes are going to dissolve at different rates in that solvent at 50 degrees Celsius. Okay? So all of those curved lines, they just indicate the solubility of that solvent. I'm sorry, not the solvent, but that's the solubility of that solute at a range of temperatures. And then that curved line is the graph of the solubility of that solute. So when we read a solubility chart, there are a variety of ways that a question could be presented to us. For example, let's say I have a question and it's asking me how much of a particular solute will dissolve in my solvent if it's at a certain temperature Celsius. For example, let's say my first question is how much NaNO3 dissolves at 60 degrees Celsius. Now I have two ways that I can approach this. I can look across the bottom of the chart until I find 60 degrees, and when I do that, then I can run up that line of 60 degrees until I find the solute line, the solute curve, that is labeled NaNO3. And I can follow that 60 degrees all the way up to NaNO3. So there's my solute line. The other option is I can find my solute line, NaNO3, and then I can follow that until I see where it crosses at 60. Now, I can see that it crosses the 60 degrees Celsius line somewhere between 120 grams and 130 grams. It's not quite in the middle of 120 and 130, so I'm going to call that probably about 124 grams of NaNO3 will dissolve in my solvent at 60 degrees Celsius. Another type of question that could be presented is, according to the graph, at which temperature can I dissolve 50 grams of KNO3? Now, when they ask a question like this, I have a certain amount of solute that I want to dissolve. And they're asking me to determine what is the optimum temperature to dissolve that amount of solute. So, I'm going to go to 50 grams of solute along the left side, and then I want to find where 50 grams of that solute crosses my KNO3 line. Well, I can see here's my KNO3 line. So it crosses my 50 grams of solute, and that's between 30 and 40 degrees Celsius. Now, it's not quite directly in the middle between 30 and 40, so I'm going to say that that's probably about 33 degrees Celsius, where I would dissolve 50 grams of KNO3. The final thing that this solubility chart tells us is, if my solubility curve starts low and goes high, then that is either a liquid or a gas. But if a liquid or a solid. But if my solubility curve starts high and goes low, then that has to be a gas. And that's simply from temperature. As things get hotter, liquids and solids dissolve more readily, and a larger amount of them dissolve into my solvents. But gases, as things warm up, gases start coming out of solution, not much of them dissolve into the solvent, and a less amount of gas can be dissolved into solution. So, you can look at the line and tell whether it's telling you that solute is it a gas, liquid, or solid. So that's some more information you can determine looking at a solubility chart. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions at all about this before you take the quiz, please send me a message in Canvas, send me an email, get in touch with me on Remind, somehow ask your question so that I can help you. Thanks, guys.